Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 96. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. I know it's the offseason, but there's just been so much going on. It feels like we're almost doing our regular in-season Monday, Wednesday, Friday show. So that's why we are back on this Monday. Dave, hope you're doing well, and we have some crazy stories for you guys to listen to today. Some really unusual stuff happened these last couple of days.
Boy, what a last couple of 3 or 4 days, right? You know, definitely. We said, look, you know, probably a few things probably going to happen along the way here. You know, probably nothing major as far as outside free agents go or anything along those lines, but little bit of shakeup, and you know, we were a little bit disappointed. Started free agency to first learn that, or it looked like the team was going to lose Tyson Alualu to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But as the great Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I have my terrible take today, and in it, I lead off by saying the second most surprising part of Steelers free agency was Tyson Alualu leaving the Steelers. The most surprising part of free agency was Tyson Alualu returning to the Steelers, as news broke over the weekend that Tyson Alualu had changed his mind and is going to re-sign, actually take less money to come back and return with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the long and short story of it, according to Tom Pelissero, was that Oluwalu initially agreed to a 2-year, $6 million contract with Jacksonville. Before, though, he could sign his contract, he had unfortunately tested positive for COVID, so that put things on hold. Had to wait about 10 days, and over that 10-day span, thinking it over some more and some recruiting from teammates and coaches, had a change of heart and decided to stay in Pittsburgh, the best thing for his family. So that is what led to Tyson Alualu returning to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm on board. I don't care what the reason is. It doesn't matter. As the Rock would say, it doesn't matter. But look, you know, I had virtually guaranteed that Tyson Alualu would be back this year. Did I think it was going to happen this way? Absolutely not. I was pretty bummed, and I know you were as well. You know, once the news originally broke that he was going to sign with the Jaguars, money aside, it didn't make a lot of sense. Now you got to be careful from the outside and sitting there and counting another man's money. You know, but and we don't know for sure. All that's out there being reported is that he's taken that he's going to take a little bit less from the Steelers than what he was going to get from the Jaguars, which I think the original numbers that Aaron Wilson put out there was 2 years, $6 million. How close did the Steelers come to that original offer? Come to that? I'm willing to bet it's pretty close, Alex. I mean, if you go back and look at the 2-year deal that Tyson Alualu signed in 2019 when he re-upped, it was something along the lines of, I don't know, what was it, like 5.5 or 5.75 along those lines. I mean, you're not going to disrespect him much more than that, I would hope. And look, his minimum base salary at the lowest it can be is $1.075 million. So how much of a signing bonus did you give him to keep him in Pittsburgh at least one more season? I would venture a guess that signing bonus is probably, I don't know, 1.5 on the low side. I can't imagine it being anything less than that. You know, maybe 1.25 at an absolute lowest. And if that indeed's the case, then, you know, his cap number is going to be around 2.25 at the lowest. And then obviously once roster displacement takes place and all like that, you're able to retain him with only used up a little less than $2 million in 2021 salary cap space. So, the minutia, as we like to say, will work itself out here probably in the next 24 to 36 hours as far as what the actual contract is, and once again, I expect it to be fairly similar, close to what he was going to get from the Jaguars. But the key takeaway here is that you get to keep one of those good run defenders, and really, good against the good as a pass rusher these past couple years as well too, in the fold for at least one more season. Let's not kid ourselves here. This might be just a 1-year deal overall. Sure it'll be a 2-year deal on paper, but the fact that you're able to retain him, maybe for one more, or it looks like at least one more season in 2021 is pretty big from the aspect of look at who you have lost already. Steven Nelson out the door, Vince Williams out the door, Mike Hilton out the door. It really was going to hurt to throw one more person in Tyson Alualu onto that list of names.
Especially when it comes to run defense, because all those guys you mentioned and Bud Dupree are excellent to elite run defenders. And
I forgot Bud Dupree too. Yeah, I forgot to add Bud Dupree in there. That's a big one.
Probably your best run defender is a guy like Bud Dupree. And so, to lose Oluwalu on top of that, at least what we initially thought was losing him would have been really, really, a big blow to this defense. And that's what made it so frustrating initially when it felt like he was going to Jacksonville, was that, the money wasn't over the top, and it felt like Pittsburgh wasn't willing to go up that extra level to match that deal or convince Oluwalu to return to Pittsburgh. So they definitely got lucky here because no one could have predicted this, and it was just the crazy circumstances of the COVID test, and that's what led them back to Pittsburgh. But it's certainly a big boost for this defensive line, for this run defense. I put the numbers up in an article on yesterday's on Steelers Depot, Dave. Whenever the Steelers had Oluwalu in the game in their base 3-4 package, they only allowed 2.9 yards per carry. With him out of the game in their base 3-4, they allowed 4.9 yards per carry. And so that just one number not all attributable to Oluwalu, of course, but I think it just shows how well he played, especially before his MCL sprain midseason in that Baltimore game. And so really big get for the Steelers. And, my philosophy has always been for Pittsburgh, if you want to win the North, you have to stop the run, because you're playing Baltimore, you're playing Cleveland, you're playing top 5 rushing attacks, and you've already lost so many pieces to stop the run in the names you just mentioned. And so keeping Oluwalu is at least one piece in that hopeful mission of stopping the run to win the North.
And I don't think either one of us is trying to get Tyson Alualu some all pro votes here, or get him to the Pro Bowl. But make no mistake about it. And I said this a couple years ago. I thought he was probably should have been out the door 2 years ago, and was a little bit surprised when they did re-sign him. Lo and behold, you look at the 2 seasons that he's put up back to back, and then really more specifically look at what he's done moving over into the base 3-4 nose tackle position this past year. And how many times did we say it? It's like 33 going on 23 at times. I mean, he just was literally whooping some guards and centers around the league on a weekly basis. And it's a shame that he got injured there early in, what was it, first game against the against the Ravens there. But to wonder what he might have been able to do, had he stayed healthy moving forward, and how that maybe that knee kind of maybe bothered him moving forward. He still played well, and the key about this, and I've already done a terrible take on this as well too, don't discount a guy like Carlos Davis moving forward, and say what you will about Isaiah Buggs. I think the writing was kind of on the wall that Carlos Davis had maybe jumped Isaiah Buggs at the end of last season there. I think it's pretty obvious as well too. And yeah, the team re-signed Chris Wormley a week ago. I view that more of a depth needed defensive end type move there. Sure, you can still get Carlos Davis kind of. You got kind of the best of both worlds here, because you can move forward with Tyson Alualu, but you probably don't have to wear him out just the same either, because, as we've noted, it was a small sample size of snaps for Carlos Davis, but he didn't play bad. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so you can obviously move forward with Tyson Alualu, and then of course use him, as a rotational guy in some sub packages, and at the same time you can continue to get a better and longer look at Carlos Davis and bring him along, and who knows, maybe he could be your guy starting in 2022. But it was going to hurt one way or the other. Not having Oluwalu back in the fold for 2021, and now it seems like that has been rectified. And to me, that's the move of the offseason so far. I think right now for the Steelers.
Absolutely, yeah. You're no longer counting on these young guys in Davis and Buggs to step up. They can continue to grow and develop and get play time. Davis has played up and down the line. He can play, 3-tech, and so Oluwalu can play in subs. So there's a chance to rotate all these guys in, and so that's probably a better way to bring them along. And just to really hammer home the point, because I know people hear nose tackle in today's NFL, they think, oh, it's a position, not even a starter, nickel corner is more important, and some of that is true, but just to throw some extra numbers at you guys, last year overall, the Steelers were in their base 3-4 defense 36.6% of the time, so more than a third. It was their second most used individual package, only behind nickel, which was at 39%, 3-4 at 36%. And then, again, really important to hammer home this point, when you're playing the AFC North, you have to stop the run. They're all teams that have multiple tight end sets and great running backs and a focus and philosophy on running the football. And so in the 7 games against the AFC North last season, including the wildcard loss to Cleveland, the Steelers were in their base defense 44% of the time. So again, the base defense is not dead. You're going to be in your 3-4. You're going to have to stop the run. In an offseason where you've lost a lot of key run defenders, again, Mike Hilton, Bud Dupree, Vince Williams, Steven Nelson, etc., getting Oluwalu back is at least one guy you're not having to worry about replacing this offseason.
Right. Absolutely. Look, once again, we haven't seen this contract yet, but one would think it's going to be pretty, at least the reports out there so far is that it was a little bit cheaper than what the Jaguars were giving him. I can't imagine, once again, Oluwalu's cap charge in 2021 being greater than $2.5 million. In fact, that seems astronomical high from where we sit right now. So I would expect, once the numbers come in, that it's going to use up less than $2 million in cap space to keep him in Pittsburgh for at least 2021. Good move.
Which is extremely reasonable. And it's just kind of what we had talked about before for agency, why I was so surprised initially to hear that Oluwalu was leaving to go back to Jacksonville. Granted, it was a place that he knew very well, but these are not just football players. They're husbands, they're fathers, they're families that they have to consider as well. And so did you really want to have to deal with moving your whole family and taking kids out of school and all those things that, come with any person, moving to a new job? And so I think those were the ultimate reasons why Oluwalu decided to stay in Pittsburgh. So those are the things you have to consider when it comes to free agency.
Boy, they did this, Cam Hayward and Tuitt and, all those guys, they were bummed. They were bummed. And then now you turn around, how excited those guys were and how, I get, believe the reports out there if you want. Carl Dunbar, made a push at this thing using his recruiting skills from. Look, I don't think Tyson. You can't really think that Tyson really wanted to leave, right? I mean, that was part of the reason why I virtually guaranteed him returning. How in the heck this guy's had a resurgence? His last 2 years in Pittsburgh have been the best of his, in my opinion, probably the best of his entire NFL career. And you get a chance to maybe to end your career that way and potentially play for at least a team that probably will be expected to at least make the playoffs. Why wouldn't you go back to that? And you'd have to think that he's become real good friends with Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt and several of those guys, Dunbar and all like that. So the Lord works in mysterious ways, Alex, and it looks like that's we can kind of credit that a little bit to what happened this past weekend here.
Yeah, what would Jesus do? He'd stay in Pittsburgh for less money. So I think that's in Psalms. All right, Dave, let's talk about some extra contract stuff. Finally got a contract information on Miles Killebrew and Cassius Marsh. I think pretty much as expected contracts, but I'll let you explain the details.
With the contracts with those two, they ended up being exactly what we thought they were going to be. They ended up being what we term as I think the official word for them is veteran salary benefit contracts. Now, I think we used to call them qualified or salary benefit contracts or whatnot, qualifying contracts. Anyway. They are both one-year deals. Both players, both Killebrew and Marsh will have base salaries for their credited seasons in the league. And in Killebrew's case, it is $990,000. In the case of Marsh, it is $1.075 million. Killebrew got the larger signing bonus of the two. He got the maximum allowed to qualify for one of these veteran salary benefit contracts. He got $137,500. With that, he will have, because it's a qualifying contract, I wrote about it, the veteran salary benefit, formerly known as a minimum salary benefit, allows teams to offer what's called a qualifying contract to any player with at least 4 credited seasons at a reduced salary cap hit. Under this provision in the CBA, a qualifying contract is a one-year deal worth the minimum base salary applicable to a player with this number of credited seasons, plus or up to $137,500 in additional compensation via signing bonus, roster bonus, incentive, yada yada. And these contracts are charged against the salary cap at the rate of a player with 2 credited seasons in that league year, plus whatever the signing bonus amount is. So in the case of Killebrew and Marsh, their base cap charge will be the 880,000 or 850,000, and then you add on the bonus proration to each of them on the 1 year, and then that's what gives you the cap hit on both those guys. And I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers here for you real quick so I can give them to you. Marsh will count. Where did he go? I know I just added him in here.
It's a very reasonable low number.
Oh,
right?
yeah. For Killebrew will count 987,500 against the cap, and Cassius Marsh will count 950,000 against the cap. So reduced cap charges on both of them. And look, here's the thing on both those guys. You know, even though you've got a little bit of, and you would think a guy in the case of Killebrew, you would think he's guaranteed to make the roster. You know, if something happens and he doesn't, you're only out the signing bonus on both those players, which in Killebrew's spot is $137,500, and in Cassius Marsh, who's a lot less likely maybe to make the roster, $100,000 in potential money there. So that's the long and short on those 2 one-year deals with those 2 players.
Good deal. Thanks for the explainer. So after displacement, how much are they actually moving the cap needle?
Oh, I mean, not much at all, right?
Yeah,
because, I mean,
right.
You're into the rule of 51 now. The lowest player on there has a 780,000. So, I mean, I think combined
500,000.
I mean, peanuts, because once again, Killebrew's cap charge is 987. So, I mean, you get a little over 200,000. I think you're eating into it there. And in Cassius, 950,000 cap charge there. So another 160,000. So not even $500,000, right around $500,000, something like that.
Yeah, I saw some people, say Marsh, and it's just funny to nitpick at the way that some people do. Oh, Marsh got overpaid, got too much money, but I mean, these are basically base salaries. Base salaries continue to rise, and they're not the 500,000 they were maybe 2 decades ago. So these contracts are very reasonable. Obviously, Killebrew a better player, and like you said, has a much better chance of making the team than Marsh does. But I'm not going to pretend like Marsh got paid millions and millions of dollars here.
Well, here's the thing. If you're listening to this and you think Cassius Marsh got overpaid, well, then he got overpaid by $100,000.
Right, just the signing bonus.
Because it's a minimum salary contract. Other than that, it comes with a decreased cap charge on top of it. So if you're out there and you're out there spreading the news that Cassius Marsh got overpaid, well then, Okay, $100,000. That's the difference.
Big overpay for Pittsburgh. But again, they're going to have to add more. You think they're going to sign another free agent, outside linebacker?
I still think it's plausible. It'd have to be another minimum salary deal, and it'd probably have to be a guy that can maybe help you some on special teams. I still lean more to the aspect of maybe they trade for somebody or something.
Yeah,
you know,
they're gonna have to add in some form or fashion.
Maybe you trade for a guy still on a player still on the rookie deal. I mean, it's anybody they add at this point, especially as a depth outside linebacker position, is going to be a minimum salary player or damn near close to it. You know, so
yeah.
Do I think they will? I'll just leave it this. I had already went into the offseason or had gotten to the point where I thought because them not getting a Daney back that Marsh was probably going to come back. Now, do I think Marsh is a lock to make the 53-man roster? No, I do not. But he is a good special teams player, and it stands right there with him. He'll obviously have to make earn a roster spot moving forward. Even in light of that re-signing, I mean, what do you have? Not much, right? So
Right.
I think you have to do something.
Yeah, I don't know if they will add, but they should add because there's still nothing there, and the draft class is not particularly strong at the edge position this year.
Right. So I think it is plausible that they do something.
All right, Dave, let's transition to, we thought the Oluwalu story was unusual, and then a couple hours later we found one that may top what happened with Oluwalu. And so let me just give you the speculation right now, and then I'll kind of fill in the backstory afterwards because it's long and confusing and makes my head hurt. The rumor, not official, not been confirmed by any reporter or the team or anyone like that, but the rumor is the Steelers plan to sign former Bears offensive lineman Rashaad Coward. Everyone makes fun of the last name for that. Not a great last name to be a football player. But anyway, so the rumor is Rashaad Coward signing with the Steelers. He's played guard. He's played a little bit of tackle for Chicago. Started 15 games for the last 2 years. Not been confirmed. Where did all this stem from? Reddit. Somehow the story is this guy was playing Call of Duty and he overheard on his headset someone talking in the background about a player from Chicago signing with Pittsburgh, and we believe that's Rashaad Coward. So it's hard to even explain exactly what's going on here, but the story seems to track based on the girlfriend of Rashaad Coward, and she's a Twitch streamer that plays Call of Duty and yada yada. So that is the report right now. Nothing's been confirmed. And so that's the latest we have. I don't even know what direction to take this thing in, but we'll see if it happens. If it does, though, Rashaad Coward would be some guard, maybe in a pinch tackle depth for Pittsburgh, but a very bizarre source for this story.
Yeah, and I reached out to his agent, and there have been talks. He admitted to that. Nothing imminent at this time. He said he would let me know, but I mean, it does sound like there is where there's smoke, there is fire here. So I think Monday, sometime this week, I think perhaps we could see. He was not restricted tendered by the Bears. I think this is the Old Dominion product, right? And he moved from defensive. His defensive line tape is not awful. I don't know how far you back you went on.
Didn't watch his D-line tape
on him, but I've watched a few clips on him, and anyway, they moved him over to the offensive side of football. I think they worked him a little bit at tackle and then some at guard. I view him more as a guard than a tackle. If they do sign him, and it does, once again, according to his agent, it sounds like this is in the works. All right. Nothing's official, and I reached out to Josina Anderson too, and she said nothing done yet as far as him signing. But if he were to sign, it's probably going to be a minimum salary deal or damn near close to it. I would think, and then he'd have to compete for a roster spot. So. Yeah, we'll just watch this play out. They could probably use another, a little bit more experienced depth guy here. And once you know what though, you look at his measurables. So he's a classic 4'5" tech. Bill,
You're trying to flip him back.
I'm trying to flip him. I'm trying to flip him back. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Okay, because obviously there's not a lot of tape out there of him other than playing some on the offensive line for the Bears. So that's what we know about Mr. Coward right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to flip him back. You bring back Wormley, you got Bugs and Davis, and now you have Oluwalu back in the mix. I think this is for offensive line. He started 5 games last year for Chicago, I think between week 6 and 10. I believe 3 of those came at guard. The last 2 came at right tackle. And the tape I saw in the brief view that I looked at it was not great. I did not really like his tape, and the feeling from Bears fans was good riddance. And obviously the Bears didn't even consider tendering him as an undrafted free agent, so the lowest tender and all that. They didn't even want to do that. So this is just a pure depth thing. And because right now B.J. Finney's still your starting center if the season began today, and so really your depth at guard is pretty thin. So I think they could view it as Haig being the backup swing tackle and Coward being a potential backup guard who can also play tackle, probably right tackle if you really needed him to play there.
And once again, this would you can't imagine based on his tape him signing for more than the minimum, right? If that
No, but again, he's offensive lineman. Banner got more than I thought. Haig got more than maybe we anticipated. So I mean, if it is above the minimum, it's slight, but these offensive linemen do get paid a little bit more than other positions.
You talk about the people that need to get mad about the overpay is with Haig.
Yeah,
that's I think we've already hit on that. So anyway, we'll see what the rest of this transpires with him, and if it hits, I would expect it to be a kind of a minimum salary kind of deal with that, and obviously wouldn't move the needle much of anything.
Yeah, so we'll let you know. But if it's true, then what a crazy origin! Because someone tagged me in it initially, and I looked up the post and it was deleted.
Got deleted,
so and so I thought it was just some stupid trade rumor about Allen Robinson. Someone was speculating, so I was like, okay, this is just pointless. But I looked into it later that night, and I was like, okay, this thing actually might have legs. So crazy story. It appears that Reddit post was not a troll; it was true. We'll just see if the signing becomes official or not.
Right, and I think the initial word was he might get traded or something, but he's not tendered, so it's hard to. And I went back and I looked and double checked on the NFL, on the official NFL release at the start of free agency, and he indeed was not tendered, so he became basically a street unrestricted free agent at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so crazy story there. We'll keep you posted. Maybe have an answer for Wednesday or Friday's show. All right, Dave. Let's get to
one other quick matter on that too. I don't believe when I think the rule is too when restricted free agents don't get tendered, they become non-compensatory free agents on top of it. In other words, I don't think teams get credit for losing them in a compensatory process, nor do I think when teams sign them do they get debited, when the form, when it comes to the compensatory formula. As far I know, there's probably a few questions out there about that as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good
another thing too, with the Oluwalu thing, that impacts the compensatory a little bit, too. But you'd much rather have the player, I think, than you would the compensatory value, right?
Yeah, what was he going to be, a 6th-round value? I would rather have Oluwalu than the 6th-round pick.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, let's get to the odds and ends show, a segment of the show today, just a bunch of small stuff that's come across the wire. Let's stick with the offensive line here, and you listen to the report, so again, I'll let you speak to it, and I shouldn't even call it a report, or just whatever you want to call it, but some update on Alejandro Villanueva's status.
Yeah, how do we term this without hurting people's feelings?
I would just, however you heard it, just relay it as factually as possible.
One Ed Bouchette stated on 93.7 The Fan Monday morning that word is that maybe the Steelers went to Alejandro Villanueva and said, hold up putting your house on the market. Not so fast, my friend. Another Lee Corso. Two Lee Corso.
Double Corso on a Monday.
A double Corso. And then not long after them having them on his own show, then the two sports DJs really kind of discredited Ed, saying that they had, that the house is under contract and that's why the sign is down. So who knows? Ed says, I haven't confirmed it, so I don't want to put it out here, but here it is out here. We'll take it. We'll run with it. and at least write. He says he can't write about it. Well, we did. So there you go. And I didn't write anything more than really what Ed put out there, and I made sure to follow up with what the sports DJs added to the story on top of that. Here's the long and short of it. Alejandro Villanueva remains unsigned right now, and we're coming up closing in on 2 weeks into the start of free agency, right? So that's not good on his end. I think Craig Wolfley has speculated maybe that Al's thinking about retirement. Well, I wrote at the beginning of way before free agency, it wouldn't totally shock me if Al stepped away and got on with his life's work. So where do we stand all this with all this with Villanueva right now? We don't know. This whole segment has boiled down to nobody knows nothing.
Right. Not much of an update in reality. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Villanueva potentially retiring, and obviously he's much more than a football player. That story is well documented. But I didn't think he was going to retire. Assuming he had a decent market and could get paid and cash in. But knowing how cool his market has been, he may make a decision that it's just not worth playing for whatever lower level amount of money that he may ultimately get. And going through all that with his body at his age in his 30s at this point. So we'll see. But yeah, the housing thing, I mean, you mean to tell me a for sale sign went down in a housing market that's as hot as this? Well, I am shocked. I mean, who could imagine a house being sold in today's world? Just weird. So we'll keep you posted. I mean, the Steelers, it doesn't sound like the Steelers have completely closed that door, but there's still the part of the financial side of it, the want-to, and Villanueva deciding he would want to come back for, I'm not even sure what amount of money it would be at this point.
It would have to no less than $8 million. It could. Okay. You don't slap. Juju got what, $8 million?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You don't slap him. There's no way. I think there's no way you could ask Al Villanueva to come back and play on a 1 year for 1 year for less than $8 million.
But if no one else is offering him any money, I mean,
if I'm Al, then I say thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, because you would have to do avoidable year contract in that scenario. And for the Steelers, I mean, you're bidding against yourself. You're adding some more dead money, which is not the end of the world, but you're just doing that willingly. So if the market's, $5 million, then if you're the Steelers, you say, well, the market's telling you what your value is, and so that's what we're going to value at.
I couldn't see it happening for less than $8 million. Personally, I put it at $9 million. I think that's where his market value is right now, $9 million for the one season. $8 million. I would be shocked if he agreed to play for less than $8 million at that point. And look, we just saw what the Steelers did with and look, people are going to say, y'all sure are advocating this. We are advocating it from an aspect that could you do worse at bringing back Alejandro Villanueva for $9 million or less? If they could get him for $9 million on avoidable year, personally, I think they should do it. But that's just me. There's nothing that would prevent you from still drafting a tackle. Who do you want over on that side open up the season anyway? Villanueva or Banner or Okorafor? I mean, do you even want Okorafor if you could get away from it from being in the starting lineup at this point? Nothing would still prevent you from addressing the position in the draft, and Lord knows you don't want Haig. I think we both agreed probably want Chukwuma Okorafor maybe being your swing guy before you would want a guy like Haig being your swing tackle there. So now anything more than that, yeah, then I think you're, I think there's a line there, and I think $9 million is that line there. If you could bring him back on $9 million with 4 avoidable years, get his cap hit around that 4, 5, 6, mark, whatever I have it wrote out at 275 or something like that, then I think you do that, and then you move forward from there. Is it going to happen? Look, the longer he remains unsigned, I think the more likely it is that he returns to Pittsburgh. Does he really want to pick up and go somewhere else for a 1 year, $8 or $9 million deal?
Sure. No, I think that's a fair point. But also, the speculation is, could he just retire? The longer he sits, the more he may just consider walking away.
Sure. And nobody would Nobody would bat an eye at it, I don't think, or should. I mean, the guy's probably got enough money. Once again, don't need to be out here counting another man's money. But he's done all right in the NFL, and I think he'd do pretty good in his life's work afterwards anyway. There, I bet he's pretty good with his money overall. Just guessing, but
well, he's the business major from Carnegie Mellon, so yeah, he's probably doing all right.
Right. So we'll see. Here, I'll speculate this far. I'm guessing by the end of this week we'll find out something about Alejandro, because I mean, how much longer can this go? Is he just going to stay out there? I mean, I suppose he could take the James Conner route too and just say, you know what, I'm just going to get myself in shape here and sit and wait until training camp and somebody goes down, and then my market value increases that way. But to me, I think I would think that Villanueva would want a little bit more kind of finality to maybe what's going to happen here, very, very soon. So I will speculate that by Friday night we'll know something about Alejandro.
All right, we'll keep you posted whenever the news does come across. All right, Dave, speaking of aimless speculation, Albert Breer speculating Sam Darnold's next landing spots. Now, it seems like the Jets are pretty intent on drafting BYU Zach Wilson at number 2 overall, and he listed 2 places as good fits for Sam Darnold, those 2 places being Carolina and, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I know you wrote about that this morning for Steelers Depot. What's your analysis of Breer's analysis?
Look, I get why this has been going on for a while now, trying to link Darnold to the Steelers because of the quarterback situation, because it looking like potentially this is the last season for Roethlisberger. Mason not under contract past this season. I get the why people are trying to link Darnold to the Steelers. I do. Look, I was a big Darnold fan when he came out. I think I had him as my number 1 QB1 that year as well too. Do I think it'd be intriguing for Darnold to come to Pittsburgh to try to resurgence? Yeah, I think it would be intriguing there. But with that said, just from a financial standpoint, Alex, I mean, if they traded for Darnold right now. And assuming the Jets wouldn't eat that $3-something million roster bonus that he's due, and there's no reason to think why. I think it's ludicrous to think that the Jets would to eat that in addition to the other dead money they'd have to have to eat with him. His cap charge would be $4.6 million in 2021. How in God's name would you be able to afford that?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. If someone made you make it work, how would you go about doing that?
Cut Eric Ebron. Well, and really, you've already extended him out, so that's not going to happen.
Well, you would voidable year extension with Joe Hayden would be one way to get that money.
Yeah,
right?
You'd have to go that way. But even so, how much more is that?
It gets you pretty close. I don't know if it gets you all the way there.
I mean, I suppose it could get you a little ways there, if you wanted to go that route. But then
go ahead.
But then on top of it, it's twofold here when it comes to this.
Mm-hmm.
Not only would you have to absorb that $4.6 million cap charge for this guy to be a backup, right? Second, you'd have to make a decision by May the 3rd on his 5th-year option, which is set in 2022 to be $18.858 million. And once you exercise that 5th-year option, it would be fully guaranteed.
Right, but if you're trading for him, you're picking up the option. Like that's
sure. I mean, you
have to.
You'd almost have to at that point. So, and then you would go. I would assume that you would go into the 2022 season having Darnold try to play for the franchise tag.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple, right?
Yeah. And obviously that would mean that this is Ben's last year. That would just kind of put that final nail in that coffin. But none of those things, hypothetically, if you really like Darnold enough and you felt like he could be your future, the 4.6 whatever money you have to clear for this year, I don't think is enough of a barrier. And picking up the option, would be fine. It would track with how you feel about Darnold. So, hypothetically, I think there's some difficulty in trying to evaluate Darnold and getting him playtime next year and making a decision based off of 1 year of play potentially. But, I don't think it's financially, I don't think it would prevent the Steelers from doing it if they really, really like Sam Darnold.
All right, what did we say? Let's go back to the Joe Hayden again. The $7 million minus 1.075.
So math, we're getting math here.
Yeah, we're getting math involved here.
1.075.
1.075. So $7 million minus 1.075 is what?
5.925.
All right. Now divide that by 5.
1.185.
All right.
So
now
add that to
his base salary, which is 1.075, which would be his new base salary.
2.26. So 7 minus 2.26, right? To get your cap savings.
Right.
4.74.
Okay.
So there's your money.
All right. And
so again, if hypothetically, if you like Sam Darnold enough, and you were like, man, this guy is really good. We have a chance to get him. It's going to be so hard for us to draft a quarterback. I wouldn't sit there and say that, oh, we just can't do the trade because we got to clear up $4 million. Like that shouldn't be enough of a barrier to prevent you from trading for a guy that if you really like him and think that he could be your future.
All right. I mean that and basically at that point too. I mean the door is not that it's not already, but the door gets completely slammed on Ben Roethlisberger being back into not that it's a barrier, but there's a lot of minutia that would have to work for that to happen, and you would have to have, I mean you'd have to have the Hayden stuff done and the ink dried. You would think before dealing for him too, right?
That's true. That's a fair point. And then there's the question of compensation. What exactly would you have to give up to acquire Sam Darnold? Some people speculated a 3rd-round pick, a 2nd-round pick. I'm not quite sure what it would take. Depends on, how much of a market there is for Darnold right now, but that's another question to consider.
Right.
But the biggest concern for me in that hypothetical would be, basically he sits this year. He's the backup, I suppose, in some form or fashion. And then 2022, he basically gets 1 year to prove it. And you're going to have to make your decision on Darnold long-term based off of that one season. And that can be risky trying to just make a decision based off of one season of play. And basically just new to your organization and you're not quite sure how to evaluate him and do we want to invest in this guy long-term. That can be kind of a difficult line to walk.
And then obviously you're betting on him not playing in 2021. So you're going to pay a guy $4.5 million to be a backup and maybe play what you hope is 100 snaps. And then on top of it, but way before all that anyway, you've got to make the decision on nearly paying him $19 million for 2000. It just doesn't seem like a Steelers thing to do, right?
Well, I mean, they've done some un-Steelers-like things lately in this crazy offseason. I mean, I wouldn't say it's, impossible.
I mean, what you do is you let somebody else trade for him and take the hit, and then if they get ready to dump Darnold a year from now, then maybe you go after him,
Yeah, but then if that team's getting ready to dump Darnold, that probably means he didn't play too well, and do you even want Sam Darnold at that point? So anyway, Breer even noted that he doesn't think Pittsburgh's. This is just speculation. It wasn't like it was an actual report or anything like that. So just off-season fodder. We'll see what happens. But I mean, Darnold probably will get traded here. I mean, they're going to draft Zach Wilson. So unless Darnold just kind of there is now the veteran mentor, I'm not sure why they would keep Sam Darnold on the roster. All right, Dave, other news here. And people are acting like this is breaking news. I'm not quite sure why, especially after what Art Rooney said last week. But Adam Schefter yesterday reporting the NFL will move to a 17-game season and schedule for the 2021 season. That will reduce the preseason by 1 game from 4 to 3, the first expansion of the regular season since 1978 when they moved from 14 to 16 games. And so that has not been officially confirmed yet, but it will be passed by the owners in their meetings in a couple of weeks.
Right. Not a shocker there. We've been writing about it for a while now, and I think some people are under the impression that it would actually be the Week 17 game, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's it will be the added 17th game, but not actually the Week 17 game. Does that make sense?
I'm kind of losing me here.
I think people are seeing this as, like Steelers versus Seahawks. I think people are taking it as that will be the Week 17 game or Week 18 or whatever, the last game of the season.
Oh, in the schedule, you mean?
Right.
No, yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be that now.
Right. So there are a few people out there. I think someone sent me a tweet along the lines of, "Oh man, I get tired of them closing against Cleveland and Cincinnati or something like that." It just means that that will be the extra team that the Steelers will play, not necessarily that it will be the final game of the season. In fact, they probably still haven't set the official schedule. They probably got a good idea what the schedule looks like for 2021. But until this gets absolutely finalized by the owners, which I think they're saying should happen this week, that's when you press the button and have it spit out the schedule at that point.
Yeah, I still believe and would expect the Week 18 finale now would still be an AFC North game. It wouldn't be an out-of-conference game or something like that.
Right.
So, and then again, 18 weeks, only no additional bye weeks. We're still just the one bye week, and everything gets pushed back a week. So the Super Bowl, instead of being the first Sunday in February, is now the second Sunday in February.
Does the Super Bowl date change, though, because they're doing one less? Because, I mean...
Yeah, it's the second weekend now.
But I mean, hasn't that Super Bowl already been set for a while? The date of that, you would think that they'd already have to have the date set for that.
I'm not sure about this year, but my understanding was it pushes everything, the playoffs and everything back a week, and so the Super Bowl is now going to be the second weekend in February instead of the first Sunday.
I mean, let's see, that would be, I mean,
because the Super Bowl is always the first Sunday in February.
They not that. Let's see. Maybe they have kind of the delay, because I know there was an initial date out there, Sunday, February the 6th, I think, for LVI. Maybe they pulled that back now. So
yeah, I mean, if they had it set, they're probably just gonna change it because they're gonna have to push everything back a week. So there you go.
SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, for Super Bowl LVI.
There you go. All right, Dave. Last thing here you wanted to touch on. I know you've done a lot of homework on Pat Freiermuth, considering the Steelers' interest in him during Penn State's Pro Day last week, and you've come away with some conclusions and thoughts and feelings on Pat Freiermuth.
I mean, conclusions? No.
Okay.
Thoughts? Yes. I went back through and look, he obviously had the shoulder injury in 2021, cut him a little bit short, cut him a lot short, actually. He played 1, 2, 3, 4 games or 5?
4 or 5.
Regardless, only had 20-something receptions and all like that. I went through and I charted all of that, all of his targets from 2020, and then looked at some of the blocking and all like that. Basically, did a full contextualization of it, and I'll have the outcome of that hopefully on the site later today. But man, I came away from his 2020 tape underwhelmed, Alex. And do I think he's still a good player? Yeah, I do. Do I think he's a slam dunk first round quality player? Not off of his 2020 tape. I do not. He had an average depth of target on 35 receptions, I think, of nearly 9 yards down the field. However, one of those targets was the blown play against Nebraska early in the season that ended up him catching the ball, I think, 41 yards down the field. So that obviously is going to skew the sample size here with it. But even including that in there and including his that catch, if you remove that one catch that he had. And I know, don't cherry pick, blah, 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 but how can you not in this situation here? His average depth of completed targets right around, 6 yards or so. And that's not extra special, okay? And then when you kind of look at it on a play-by-play basis, just in 2020, Yeah, there's a lot of good, a combative catcher, at times, a fairly good route runner, can run away from certain, safeties and linebackers. But once again, I think in its totality and his blocking was, good, better than most, but still, lacks in that area. I think he should get better at the NFL level in his blocking. The totality, once again, from his 2020 film has me feeling like, man, I'm not so sure this kid is a slam dunk top 50 player right now. Now, Gil Brandt has him, I think, 38th overall in his initial top 100. Not that that means a damn thing, but I usually like to use that as kind of a guide, here. Now, I have started going through. I've made it through the first 3 games of 2000, or actually hit the first 2 games of 2019, and then the Memphis, the bowl game against Memphis, and I still have got to go through the rest of the 2019 games with him. What I've seen just from the start of 2019 of the 3 games that I've gone through still hasn't changed my mind. All right, now. Our guys, a couple of our scouting guys on staff here think that that there's a lot better out there in the 2019 film. So that's what I'm looking. What I'm basically looking for now at this point is him showing me he can be more of a dynamic down the field pass catcher in 2019 than what I saw in 2020. We'll see. Once again, like I said, I interrupt you at the top. It's not a total. I haven't come to a conclusion on him. I just want to take you through the process of where I'm at with him right now.
Sure.
And where I'm at right now with him is a little bit trying to scratch in my head. We're calling him a slam dunk top 50 player.
That's fair. No, I think you explained that really well. Here's where I struggle with the ADOT, though. Is it, I know it's a lower ADOT, but 2 things. One, is that because he's just not capable of being a more of a downfield threat, or is it just because of how Penn State used him? And then 2, what do other tight ends have for ADOTs? I mean, it's hard to put that number alone and not compare it to other guys. Like, I'm sure Kyle Pitts is a much, higher and better ADOT than Pat Freiermuth, but just how does that compare to other players? I know that's a monumental task to try to come up with, but it's always hard to look at just one number alone and say, this is a good or bad number relative to other players.
Sure. And look, he's not, nobody going to even try to compare him to Kyle Pitts, right?
Sure. No way.
I mean, that guy's a receiver based, that guy's a receiver, playing tight end. Now they split him out quite a bit at Penn State. Now, what was that offense great? Was the protection great? Was the quarterback great the last 2 seasons? No. Did they use him? Did they use Freiermuth to his full potential? I think an argument can be made that they probably didn't.
Right. That's my point.
All right. But there's some projection in there, right?
Sure. Yeah, potentially. I mean, just, even if you want to make the point that they just didn't use him right, and then you have to assume that you'll be able to use him right in the NFL and that he'll be able to respond and play to that level. So I'm not saying he can or he can't, but that number alone just kind of makes me a little hesitant. But yeah, I mean, I think you could argue
you asked about ADOT. I think for a guy to be in that top 50, to me, I think you got to see 7.5 to 8. Right.
What do you base that off of? How do you come up with that number?
Just doing it over the years with several of these tight ends and seeing where they go in drafts and all like that. I think a completed air yard distance of approaching 8, to me, puts you more in the mindset. Okay, maybe this is a receiver, maybe this is a tight end that has the ability to be in the top 50. It's nothing more than numbers. And then once again, if he didn't meet that number, then there is the projection that goes on in there. And basically what I'm getting at is rolling all this together is I view him more as a 2nd round guy than I do a 1st round guy.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
I'm not trying to discount him past 55. I'm just the Steelers' seeming appreciation for him and love for him. And I mean, look, how can you come away from that Penn State Pro Day to think that they're not heavily interested in Freiermuth?
They absolutely are. It's just a question of what spot are they most interested in and willing to take him at 55 for sure. I think they would be. The question has always been, would they take him at 24? And as I've said, he's in that gray area where I don't think he's really worth the value at 24. I never really have put him in that camp. But will he get there to 55? He could, but based on projections right now, he probably won't. So that's a struggle.
All right. How much of Freiermuth have you watched? Have I watched more than you now, or have you watched more than me?
Yeah, you've watched more than I have.
Okay, how much of and I haven't watched hardly any of Brevin Jordan. All right.
Jordan's a much more athletic, dynamic, playmaking, receiving type of tight end than Freiermuth is.
All right. Is it unthinkable to think that Brevin Jordan's tight end number 2?
No, it's not unthinkable.
All right. Well, I mean, and I haven't gone deep into Brevin Jordan, so I mean, this is going to be a discussion, as we continue on through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I have seen enough of him, both players, to think that maybe Jordan is tight end 2, and then that puts Freiermuth at tight end 3. And if that's the case, it certainly would slot him right around that 55 spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder where, just like when I asked the question about running backs, where is the average draft slot of the third tight end drafted in the last 5 classes? I wonder what number that would come in at.
I don't know. We could search it live for the people on here.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to torture the people that way?
No.
By the way, I want to make a very, very unfair comparison. Heath Miller's career yards per catch at Virginia was 11.8, and Freiermuth's was 12.9 at Penn State. Check out his freshman season. He averaged over 14 yards a catch there, and 8 touchdowns on 26.
Right. Look, once again, I'm not trying. I'm letting you know where I'm at in this in this process. This is where I'm at right now with him after watching his 2020 film and watching 3 games of 2019. 2 early in the season. I think one was against who was it here? Hold on, I'll pull up the charting for you here. Where is it? Sheet 7. Idaho.
Hey, go Vandals.
Idaho, Buffalo, and Memphis are the 3 games from 2019, and didn't set the world on fire. Had a nice had 2 nice touchdowns against Buffalo. One he was left wide open up the seam against which seemed like a busted zone there for an easy touchdown. And the other one was him. Look, can he break tackles and stuff after the catch? Is he pretty good after the catch? Yeah, it seems so. I think that's one of the pluses with him. Let me get through. I just wanted to bring people up where I am. On the heels of the pro day and the Steelers having all that interest in him, more than anything, I was almost to the point of thinking to myself, man, is there a chance that Freiermuth didn't play at 24 overall? And that's what got me wanted to go straight to the tape and started taking a deeper dive, is to see if he's worthy of 24 overall.
Right. And so you don't feel he is, as we sit here.
Oh, no, not right. And I have a feeling you don't think he is either.
Yeah, I've never really been super convinced that he was, and how many people even put him in that discussion or conversation. But I would like to go back and look at his 2018 tape a little bit when he was playing with, because McSorley was the quarterback then, right? And so maybe that had some better tape, and the yards per catch is better now. Maybe that just busted coverages and seam stuff. Who knows? Play action, possibly. But I think it's worth taking a look at that 2018 season to see him with his best quarterback play, and maybe he was used a little bit differently.
I mean, he only had 26 catches in 2018 though, too, which is only 3 more than he had in 2020. Now he didn't have such a big long reception in 2018. That's going to probably skew those numbers as bad, because look, he had 23 catches in 2020 and one of those was for 74 yards. And once again, the depth of target on that long catch and run against Nebraska was like 40 yards down the field, right?
So that skewed some of the numbers,
right? Which is going to skew that. Now, 8 of his here's a plus that feather in his cap is he does have 16 touchdowns on 16
90.
receiving touchdowns on how many receptions?
92 career receptions.
All right, so there is the red zone value there, which I think is obviously a feather in his cap here. What is the 2018 tape going to show us as far as those 26 catches and are we talking about a catch for 27 yards and another catch for 26 yards and then the rest way behind the line of scrimmage or so?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's worth investigating.
Well, hold on. I'll pull you up something. Go ahead and vamp for a minute here.
Yeah, I was going to say, whenever you're done wrapping up Freiermuth, one guy I was watching last night that reminds me of kind of poor man's Freiermuth. If you don't get him at 55, maybe a guy to consider later on is Matt Bushman from BYU, kind of very similar size, skill set, combat catch guy as Pat Freiermuth. And so that's he came out with a torn Achilles in 2020, which is going to hurt him in a lot of ways. But Bushman's kind of a guy to look at day 3.
All right, when it comes to Freiermuth and what year did I just tell you? 2018 there, 14 of his 26 catches, 14 of 26 went for 15 or more yards. Now did he catch those 5 yards down the field and have 10, that's something that the numbers don't tell you that we've got to get figured out with him.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the context for that, but I would look at least some of that 2018 tape before making any conclusions on him, just to see the full context of it.
Right.
Another tight end I was watching, I did report yesterday, was Quentin Morris from Bowling Green. He's really kind of more of a receiver, but this guy really is a fluid, good athlete for how big he is, and he had just god-awful quarterback play the last 2 seasons. And so Morris is a guy that another kind of day 3 option.
A little bit undersized from the height perspective, I think. But
yeah,
and I think he's done some stuff in the backfield a little bit as well too, right?
A little bit. He weighed in at 6'2.5", 240, something that's kind of got that maybe H-back type thing going on. I compare him to Gerald Everett, but he's a really good athlete and just a fluid mover with good hands. And I mean, the last 2 seasons, I think Bowling Green quarterbacks threw 10 touchdowns and like 23 interceptions, completed 50% of their passes. So just had the worst offenses imaginable, and the dude still made plays.
4th, 5th round guy, I think. Right.
Yeah, I could see him maybe going even 4th round just because athletic tight ends. I mean, those guys are, you don't find a lot of them. So that's kind of a guy you'd rather have than kind of this all-around, jack of all trades, blocking-ish type of dude.
Who would you rather have, him or Mason out of Michigan?
Ben Mason.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I
he's
think
more of a fullback,
totally different guys. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I mean, it's apples and oranges, but both I think can have their role in the NFL.
Well, that Mason, he has Steeler written all over him.
I know. Then they restructured Derek Watt and they crushed my Ben Mason dreams. Very sad about that.
I mean, he has Steeler written all over him. A likable kid too during his pro day media set. Very likable.
We should mention, by the way, because we didn't get to do it on Friday's show, that Coburn Tomlin and assistant offensive line coach Chris Morgan were at Michigan's pro day. Weird to not know that information for the longest time. I actually had to be the one to find the information before anyone else reported it. So they were at Michigan's pro day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're good eagle eye on you on that. And we're waiting to learn any moment now to find out whether or not they're at the North Carolina Pro Day today, which one would think that they will be, right?
Yeah, I would think so. What other pro days are happening today? I'm not the U. Maybe they're at Miami. I think they've already been a report of who is notable at Miami. I don't think we saw I don't think we saw Mike Tomlin on that list. Andrew, okay. And normally our buddy Andrew Groover from NFL Network is good about highlighting if he sees Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin. He listed at the Canes Pro Day today that Bill Belichick, Joe Judge, Brian Flores, John Robinson, Steve Keim, and Rick Spillman are there as the notable guys. So I would think that he could always update it, but right now it doesn't look like Mike Tomlin's there. North Carolina running back Javonte Williams running, I think, an unofficial 4.58. Not a great time for him.
Is that bad? Is that, as George Costanza would say, was that wrong?
It's not great, especially for a pro day time. I mean, that probably means he's a low 4.6 kind of guy.
What's Najee going to run if he runs? That's
that's
tomorrow, right? or
Is it
Wednesday?
Yeah, for sometime this week. It's the second because maybe I had to break up the pro days into two. We'll see if the Steelers are there for that because I think Matt Jones is, working out, doing something still there. I don't know. To Harris, I think we'll run similar. I think we'll run, mid to high 4.5s.
And what I mean, I guess you throw out the time. Give me some context of it.
In what context are you asking
with Javonte?
I mean, he's a bigger back, so it's not like he was going to run like 4.42. I'm not sure exactly.
What did the Raiders running Josh Jones run?
I'm reading a tweet here. It's Joe Marino says he ran 4.6. So I mean that puts him in that camp.
Who?
Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs ran a 4.6, and Williams is running 4.58. So I mean, It's not like it's not a. So
in other words, not stop the presses or anything, right?
No, but this is also a pro day time, so it probably means Williams is actually running like 4.6 something, 4.63.
Okay.
So it's not a great time, but it's not going to destroy your. It's not like Williams was known for blazing speed or something like that.
Okay.
All right, Dave. Anything else to touch on? You want to wrap things up and get to some reader emails?
It seems like we're missing something here, right? No.
Are we? I got everything on the list I had written down.
Okay.
We have our live stream tonight. We need to address anything else.
Yeah, guys, set the people up for that real quick.
Yeah, I know we're doing every other week. So tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Dave and I will be on YouTube on my channel. Just type in Alex Kozora, and you can hang out with us for an hour, and we'll ask and answer as many Steelers questions as possible.
Absolutely, we will. All right, let us go to the email machine here, if I can find what I did with it here.
Hugh Jackson is trending on Twitter. I don't know why.
Uh-oh.
He's complaining about his time in Cleveland. All right. Nothing there.
Okay. Yeah. Tony writes in, more voidable years, please. He goes on to write, well, I, for one, have enjoyed the offseason immensely. It's has not been boring. Enjoyed the cap discussions, too. Thanks for educating us on the daily basis on the confusing topic. Now, this might sound crazy, but I'd like to make a pitch that the Steelers to use voidable year strategies more often in the future. He says, hear me out. Let's say they want to sign a guy to a 2-year deal, or maybe the player only wants to commit to a 2-year deal similar to Cam Sutton's. By tacking on additional 3 voidable years, they obviously can lower the cap hit. And short-term allowing them in theory to have more money available to sign players whom they otherwise not be able to afford. They can also spread out some of that signing bonus further into future when presumable the cap should be higher. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow, he asked. When the cap goes up, the relative cost of that will be less in the future. Here's the thing, Tony, that I think you've got to keep in mind here is that those voidable years don't stay stretched out in the voidable years if the player moves on. They all come crashing forward as soon as the contract voids. So you're what essentially is happening is that you're creating larger amounts of known dead money charges in certain future years that are guaranteed to happen there. So, this is why you probably don't see it on, or it is probably why you don't see it on a regular basis. Is they want to limit the possible exposure to dead money as much as possible, even with the cap going up, because you don't want these huge chunks of for sure dead money laying out there. Right, Alex? Did I explain that right?
No, you did. Yeah, there's pros and cons to it. I do wonder, though, even when things kind of go back to normal and the cap shoots back up and all that, if teams will now lean on that voidable year stuff more often, because it is, a good way to push that money, to future years, even though it does come with dead money associated with it. But some teams may be willing to do that more often now that it's become a normal, in vogue kind of thing. So I do think we're going to see it done more often going forward, league wide, even when the cap goes back up and things are back to normal.
On the other aspect, and I understand what he says, prorated money or 2 years if it's post June 1st and all like that. Look, the thing about the voidable years too is the post June 1st does not come into play unless the void date comes after that as well too, and what player is going to agree to have their void date be that late in the offseason?
Right.
Yeah,
no one would.
On that. Now, Tony's got quite a long email here, Tony. So, I don't want to get too deep into this and take up too much time here. But once again, I think decisions on players, too often times we look at a player or people look at a player and they try to judge him only on his cap number. And that is wrong. You have to judge the player on what he's going to earn, basically average, new money, yearly average value on part of his contract. And specifically when you get into, the later years, is a player worth X amount of salary, not his cap number? Because the cap number, even if you cut the player, it's not like you save that extra prorated money. That becomes dead money. It just shifts piles. So, the question you got to ask yourself is if player X is worth this salary to you, not the cap charge. Now, obviously, have the Steelers had to be careful this year with cap structuring because of the cap situation? Yeah, that's why you're seeing these voidable years here. But I understand. And look, we wrote about this going all the way back to August about the potential about them and talked about the Steelers potentially having to do this avoidable years type stuff, especially with Roethlisberger. Now, did I think it'd get further down the line outside of Roethlisberger the way it's gone? No, but I certainly understand why they're doing it from a salary cap perspective right now, because they are so far up against it, because they have so few players they can actually go to with true restructures here. That being said, I don't think I can get on board, Tony, with you saying, more voidable years past this year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely.
Michael Rocket writes in, Ben making receivers better. Dear wise men of the terrible podcast. He gives us a little bit too much credit there, maybe. At least me. I admit a large part of me often thinks I'd be better to move on from Ben and not having him on the team this next season. With that said, I feel like I underestimate his impact on the young wide receivers. I'd love to hear your opinion on what impact Ben can have on the wide receivers versus Mason or another young quarterback. Is the national media underestimating how much Ben can develop those around him? He's from your Luxembourg follower who recently moved to the Netherlands. So this one from Michael Rocket overseas there. Thanks for writing in, Michael.
Yeah, and we had a Germany terrible take over the weekend too. So that was really cool to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to answer that question, I think it's a really good point. It's an underrated and understated point. When you have Ben, you have someone that's seen it all, can talk about these little details and knows what defenses like to do and tendencies, and that can help you run routes and know what coverages you're going to see and just little small, minute details that can really be important for these receivers. And then just the confidence of getting to catch passes from a Hall of Famer, I think is pretty special. Is that reason enough to keep Ben? Probably not, but when you do have him, I do think that's an added and definitely, although intangible, but also a real value to these receivers.
And I think this kind of goes back to, look, the reason why I believe the Steelers brought Ben Roethlisberger back and brought him back at the number that they brought him back at is they truly believe that having Ben Roethlisberger gives them a good chance at winning the Super Bowl in 2021. That reason alone.
Yeah.
I understand people want to still criticize the decision that's been made. No criticizing at this point is going to change what has happened. But that is why, in their mind, they justified bringing him back because, plain and simple, they think he can potentially lead them to a Super Bowl championship in 2021.
Yeah, I think that everyone I think has understood that point. It's just a question of, are they right about that or not?
Well, time's going to tell real quick, right?
Yeah. Yep, we'll see.
Daniel writes in, dead money study. Hey, guys, the downside with all these voidable year contracts is the dead money hit coming in the future. And Daniel would be correct there. Dave, I think you excuse the Steelers' dead money hits more than the fan base does. Every team has dead money every year, but I think the fan base believes that the Steelers have more dead money than most teams year in and year out. Can you do a study to show how the Steelers' dead money hit compares to other teams during the Kevin Colbert era? Well, it would take a little bit of an undertaking to do that, but I think you have to look at the philosophies too of teams around the leagues as well too. The Steelers are more apt to some teams structure contracts with they pay as they go on players. In other words, they don't put high signing bonuses. Or large signing bonuses in there. They will fully guarantee a couple of years out and go that way. And then on top of how many times do we see the Steelers? Look, no two ways about it. The Antonio Brown dead money charge was astronomical, right? I mean, but do you think they planned for that to happen that way?
No, obviously not.
Look at the situation several years with Lamar Woodley. They gambled on Lamar Woodley on a couple back-to-back restructures that he would get past that injury, and he didn't. All right, that was a gamble that did not pay off. Willie Colon, I think, is another one that comes to mind there. I think overall, top to bottom, the Steelers, because of what we'd like to term as the sins that come with the franchise quarterback, I think overall, and people just going flat out bat, crazy in Antonio Brown. I think they do a good job of managing their future cap and potential dead cap hits when it comes to this. How does it rank league wide over, let's say, the last 5 years? I mean, I'd really have to get down and deep on that, but how many times do you really see the Steelers taking large amounts of dead money hits on players year in, year out? Yeah, you have the John Bostics and the Morgan Burnett. But I mean, overall, what was the kind of the dead money charges on that? I mean, it wasn't astronomical at all. Now on the flip side, you do have the Ladarius Greens, right? Mm-hmm. But even so, what was the signing bonus that you gave him? 20
$5 million?
No, what did a $20 million signing bonus? Yeah.
A $20 million signing bonus?
On Ladarius Green when they signed him. What was his signing?
It was like
bonus?
a 5-year $25 million contract overall, wasn't it? Or 4 years, 20 or I don't think it was $20 million signing bonus. I don't know. Let me look here.
No, it was like 4-year, $20 million contract, right?
Right, with a $4.75 million signing bonus.
All right, 4.75. So I got my.
I was like, I knew it was a bad contract. I knew it wasn't that bad.
I got my mind twisted in the wrong direction there. Didn't come out of my mouth right. Even look at the dead money hit with him. If it was a $4.75 million signing bonus, and you got 1 year out of them, right? Or did you get?
Yeah, they got one year. So yeah, they got like a $3 million something dead money hit.
Right. So I mean, that is it a lot? Is it too much? Probably in a lot of people's eyes. Could have been a lot worse. Yeah, it could have been.
So yeah, I think you could go back and do all the work and labor of this dead money and how it stacks up, but how much have you really learned from it? It's probably hard to gauge, especially knowing that other regimes aren't as consistent and other teams have new coaching staffs and GMs every 3 to 4 years. So it's just you could learn a little bit, but I don't know if you're going to learn a lot, and I don't know if it's worth your time to go through all that legwork.
And as far as brushing it under the rug, as far as being okay with the debt, look, I mean, what choices do you have this offseason?
Yeah, this offseason's been difficult.
Especially with having to get Ben done the way we knew the Ben thing was coming. Now, if you don't think Juju was worth returning and that's the only way you should, in my opinion, look at this Juju thing. Do you think Juju was worth $8 million to come back for 1 year? Forget about the cap repercussions of having to kick it into the future. If you don't think Juju was worth $8 million to come back in 2021, that's where the discussion ends, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I get looking at the dead money because I think you have to look at the totality of these things and the short and long-term impacts, but I understand your point.
All right. So that's, I think we're caught up here on some emails. Maybe, let me switch to one other page here real quick, see if I'm missing anything that jumps out at me. I don't think that I am. Okay, so with that, we have the YouTube live stream tonight at 7. Expecting a pretty good crowd for that, I think. Alex and I will be busy covering some pro day media sessions and writing about what happens at North Carolina today, along with what other stuff we can find. Make sure you tune in to SteelersDepot.com for that. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper-right navigational bar. And also, if you'd like an ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upper-right navigational bar for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of the site as well. So in the meantime, I'm guessing we'll probably be back on Wednesday, but we'll as usual, we'll kind of play it by ear here. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.